joining in today. Thank you for taking out the time. I much
Thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you. So there's a lot of rush of medical healthcare professionals who are in particularly moving not only overseas but choosing a country like UK to go abroad. So I'll be asking you a few questions in order to help out our nursing candidates in that realm more. So according to you, if you could quickly summarize, what are the key qualifications and certifications that UK healthcare employers are typically looking for in international nurses?
Yeah, sure. So good afternoon, everyone. I think the very, very interesting question. So Nursify is helping people find jobs in foreign countries, and we are currently focusing on UK. UK, I think, in terms of the basic qualification, is very, very simple. So any candidate who would like to go to UK um, should at least have a basic qualification of BSc nursing or A&M GNM, as simple as that. They should have a IELTS score of 7 in all skills except writing, that can be 6.5. And if you are looking at OET, I think it should be, you know, a band B in everything, and writing is C+. So you need to know how to speak in English so that you can work in UK. You should have you should be a qualified nurse with at least 1 year of experience, and then the rest of it is pretty simple. You should have a nursing council practice certificate of your home country. So if you're in India, Nepal, wherever you are, you should have this certificate. And to bridge the gap between your home country and UK licensure or license that you need to register with NMC, which is Nursing and Midwifery Council, and clear a simple test called CBT. So you should be NMC registered, you should have your CBT results, and you should be willing to go to UK, and should have a passport. And then you're good to go. These are the qualifications that are required. If any of you so once you have all these things done, you can come to us. If you have not done your IELTS or OET, have the experience and the willingness to work in UK, come to us. We, through our partners, eAgeTutor, we will do your training as well, of course at a small charge, and we help you prepare for these exams. And I think once you join us after meeting all these requirements, then Nursify team is there to handhold you and help you through the whole process. So right from interview screening to interview to placement to visa to tickets, accommodation. This is time you land in UK. We are your partners, to help you get there. Yeah. So simple requirements, as long as you have BSc, A&M, GNM, or A&M or GNM, and with 1 year of experience and you've cleared IELTS or OET, I think you are good to go.
Great, sir. Thank you so much for that. So definitely we know that we have Nursify working in and out, taking care of every basic requirement that you may have once you join and start the process till the time that you are very well placed with one of the organizations that may select you. Everything is well taken care of by Nursify. Just in case everyone is wondering who can I get in touch with, I have further queries on it, how to get into the process. I have placed 2 IDs for you in your public chat. You can make note of those IDs and you can share your queries there. We'll be happy to answer in terms of anything, in terms of charges, in terms of requirements, whatever may be your query. Now, going back to typical questions which are more related to the interview, I'm asking you, say, another one. Is it really very important? Most of the nurses are very fresh who probably are there in the segment with us today and who feel that if I don't have a prior experience, probably I'm not a person who's qualified enough. Am I audible? I hope I'm audible enough. Yeah, I am. All right. So some of these nurses have this question, how much of a prior experience is it really required in according to the UK healthcare system? If I am really a fresher, is it that I have no scope to get there? How would you answer that?
So we work with, just to add, I think we work with private hospitals in UK, and uh, four out of five private hospitals are our customers, right? So mm, we would be definitely uh, able to help a lot of people with or without experience. Now, as far as the specific question of experience goes, we are very happy to place nurses who have minimum 1 year of experience. See, quite frankly, uh, and let me tell you why we need that, right? If you're a fresh, if you're a new nurse with no experience and you go to an unknown country, then it becomes a little challenging for you, honestly. So it's highly recommended that you have 1 year of experience in, and if you are very good, maybe 6 to 9 months will also do. But um, I think 1 year is the bare minimum we need. Number one, if you are in theater or if you are a mental health nurse, these are probably critical skills. A lot more in shortage that we have seen. Um, So for mental health, if you're a registered mental health nurse, we would be willing to place freshers as well. So if you're a fresher but registered with NMC as RMN, which is registered mental nurse, we would be very happy to place you. Yeah. But for others, I think I strongly recommend get some experience. Don't try to go, just immediately after your for education, because you will have to deal with two things. One, you have to learn the practical nursing techniques, and in addition, you will have to figure out how to live in a new country. And I think then it's a bit too much to handle as a new young nurse when you land in UK. So I think better to have 1 year of experience and then go to UK, or for that matter any country. And however, if any of you are mental health nurse, uh, I think, like if you work with patients of Alzheimer's, dementia, uh, acquired brain injury, I think we can probably take some freshers as well.
All right, sir. So there is window, there is room, and as sir has stated, provided you do meet certain criteria and certain requirements for which, yes, there is more scope. Thank you so much for answering that, sir. When we talk about moving to a country abroad or a country overseas, obviously there are certain challenges that an international nurse faces. So, and especially during the interview for any specific country. So, for UK, perhaps if you can throw us a little idea about what are the specific challenges that an international nurse may face during an interview process of UK.
Yeah. So let me maybe expand the answer a bit more, and maybe give you two sides to it. And so I will talk about the interview challenges, but I'll also talk about challenges you may face when you land in UK. And I think you should be prepared for both. Um, Based on 1,500 plus interviews that I've taken, and I think mostly from across the world. So we have nurses who are coming from Nepal, Kenya, Philippines, Vietnam, all the places, Barbados, Caribbean countries and all that. So I think we have now. So my feedback is based on global experience. Um, so a couple of things. One, uh, I think most people are uh, a bit nervous in the interview, and rightfully so. Everybody's nervous, right? But how do you manage that nervousness and manage fear is very, very important. Um, Remember, uh, most of these interviews are happening virtually. So, like like that. One tool we're using mostly is the Microsoft Teams. And it is very important to understand that the virtual interview should be taken as good as a physical interview. So, for example, if you go for a physical interview, you put on your jacket. As a man, I'll probably put on my tie, and go there for the interview. And I want to be well groomed, well dressed to impress my uh, interviewer. So it's very important uh, even for the virtual interview, you're dressed well, at least in formals, not in casuals. Your background is clean. So many people struggle with this. Oh, it's a virtual interview. I'm going to put my phone on, and then the phone is shaking. I'm saying, "Hello, I can't concentrate asking you a question," right? So you got to be very careful, right? So etiquettes of virtual interviews, I think, is very, very important. And we can go into details like dress well, have your background clean. Like I can see the two young ladies who have a very clean background, so it's pleasant for the it's clear, it's simple for the interviewer as well, because they want to talk to people, they want to talk to people and hire. They don't want to just leave them like that. So I think make sure you follow all the etiquettes of virtual interviews, and we'll get into specifics later. I think second, most people get nervous. Come on, it's not an exam, right? It is not an exam. Um, and let me tell you, they want to know you. And hospitals probably want you more than you want them. There's a shortage of nurses. It's a well-respected profession, and trust me, uh, they want you as much as you want them. So, uh, idea is to make sure that you don't get nervous. Remember, the 30 minutes of calmness, and if you can manage the 30 minutes of fear, can change your life from being a nurse in the developing markets, earning maybe less than 400 pounds a month or $300 a month. You can go up to earning 2,000 pounds a month. So it's a 5 times increase, and how this can change your life, I don't have to tell you, right? This can change your life significantly. We have seen a lot of people who manage that fear and manage that nervousness in the 30 minutes better than the others are more successful. So I think knowing the etiquettes of virtual interviews, making sure you are uh, you know going there with without any fear, not getting nervous. These are probably two big ones. And the third one, I think, is not preparing yourself. I think that's suicidal. So if make sure you let the interviewer know you're very keen, you're very interested. You don't just show desperation, but I think your keenness to join the company or hospital has to be very clearly conveyed. If they say, "Oh," for example, if you come to the interview and they say, "Hey, good morning, how are you?" You say, "I'm fine." What are you saying? And you don't even ask them, "Good morning, how are you doing?" So I think uh, it starts with simple reciprocating the enthusiasm that an interviewer might have, which most people make mistake on, to virtual etiquettes, the etiquettes of a virtual meeting, to managing your fears. I think this is where probably two or three big challenges people face. And if you manage that, you are okay, you're done, right? So make sure you manage these challenges.
Great,
The
sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yes,
go
sir.
ahead.
Okay, so when I started to move on to more specifics, because as you were mentioning, yes, there is an anxiety in all of us, no matter how prepared we are. Certain questions always tend to bog us, and we are never ready how to face the interviewer on those questions. For example, the very basic question, and I'm part of so many nursing interview trainings, and many people ask me, how do I go about this, Sakshi? The very first question when they ask me about, tell us about yourself, and how should a nurse effectively highlight their experience and qualifications while answering this question? How would you give a tip on that, sir?
Yeah, I think, yeah, good point. And I think this is the most important question of the whole interview. I think by asking that question, um, interviewers actually trying to break the ice and want to know you better. And let me tell you, some interviewers are so busy, they will only have 10 minutes. And in 10 minutes, they will decide whether you are good or not. So imagine you need to have an elevated pitch of you, of about yourself, sorry, when you go face these interviews, right? So um, tell me about yourself is a very, very important question. And most people will make their decision in that first question itself. And let me tell you why. Um, they want to break the ice with you. They want to know who you are, what kind of personality you are. And there, if you fumble or fail or feel nervous, you lost the battle already. Okay. So uh, the uh, the idea is when they want to say, can you tell me about yourself? They actually don't want to know what's on the resume. They want to know, uh, who you are, you know, how much experience you have, what are your likings and dislikings, right? So, let's say if I were to respond to this question, and if I'm a nurse, so I would say, my name is Chandar. I've got 2 years of experience working in Chitwan Medical College, or whatever the name of the hospital is, in medical surgical department. And, I am, a compassionate nurse who focuses on patient care, and I'm very loyal, team player, dependable, etc., etc. So what you're telling the person, so just introduce yourself. Don't go on and on. I've done, appendectomy, whatever all the terms you use, right? Which are the cases you've handled and blah 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 blah. Don't go there at all. Very simple. What's your name? What's your educational background? Where you're working? What your experience is, and talk about your top 3 or 4 strengths. They say, wow, okay, team player, good. So everybody wants a team player. Every hospital wants a team player. Everybody wants to know a keen learner who can adapt very well in a new country. Um, and they want a flexibility in terms of approach and how you work. Your good work with great work ethics. And last but not the least, remember one thing: every private hospital is looking for people who are very patient care focused. Okay, so talk about these strengths, the keywords, right? I'm dependable, good, great team player, fast learner, but make sure you also mention, you know, I'm someone who is very patient care focused. I like to provide higher value. I like to provide quality service to my patients. If they hear these 3 or 4 words, uh, your chances of success go up at least by 50%.
Fine. Great, great, great. So on that note, so tell us about yourself. Definitely sums it all up for them, and they get a very clear picture about us. But they are also interested in knowing from a nurse, how do they cope up with certain challenging situations at their workplace, right? So this question is very often thrown to them when they ask that, tell me about a time when you faced a challenging situation in your nursing career and how did you handle it? I believe where they're getting at is trying to get to know about their specific abilities to manage under pressure. So, what is it? What should these nurses be highlighting in answer to such kind of questions?
Yeah, so I think, again, so before I get to that question, I think some generic rules. Um, Remember, they want to hire you. If you got to the interview table, uh, you have already you already cleared level 1, which means they're very interested in you. Two, it's a very respectable profession. They are short of people, so that's point number 2. Point number 3 is they want to get to know you better. They don't want to ask you, If somebody has a fever, are you going to give them paracetamol or Panadol or Crocin or whatever? They don't need to know you that. They assume you already have the technical knowledge. Uh, the technical knowledge is not that important. Yes, you need to know your work, how to exploit. They'll ask you questions like, they'll give you a situation, patient A has bed sores, so how are you going to deal with it? Patient B has high fever with whatever, how you going to deal with it? All that you need to answer, right? But more importantly, they want to hear your stories. They want to hear your experiences. They want to know, how's Pratiksha, Amrita, how are you as a person, right? And will you be able to adjust to or the environment? So my suggestion would be share your stories and be yourself, right? If you need to be animated, explain, do that, please. And I think because then they will know real you. Don't try to hide and be somebody you can't be. So share your experiences, share your examples, and to that specific questions. Um, and by the way, connect with the interviewer, right? If you don't connect with them, it's going to be a little hard. For example, if let's say I'm the interviewer, if I were you, I'll look at my LinkedIn profile, who I am, where I came from, what's my title, etc., etc. Or if I'm in the news, congratulate the person. Hey, you were in news yesterday. I noticed that. Congratulations. Because everybody likes to know that you are interested in them, right? Um, and then to the specific question on challenges. Um, Sorry, what was the question there? You said what are the specific
Yes,
challenges?
yeah, challenging situations. How do they handle it?
Yeah. So I think there you could again share any story. Pick any example. It could be, oh, I got this kid who was, uh, pick from any of the patient stories. I'm sure you must have handled hundreds of patients, right? So, somebody uh, picked up a story last time. Oh, I had a kid who was going through an operation, a major surgery of brain or heart, something like that. And the kid was scared, and so the nurse said, I through stories and through games, I kept him busy. I explained to him how simple this process is and what is he going to get after that, um, and what are the benefits of doing so, blah, blah, blah. And then I think the kid was more comfortable going into the operation theater as an idea. And then I think the kid didn't have his or her parents, and even the nurses raised money for that as well. Now, this is a very emotional story. Okay, have many of these stories like that. It will help you. The more they know, because of course, they're hiring a human, right? They don't want to hire a machine, right? And so once somebody told me that a Britisher did not want to have uh, an African treat them, and they treated them very, very badly. But the patient fell down on the floor. The African, tried to help the patient, and gave them a CPR on time, and saved them. Now, all of these are stories where you need to bring in emotion. You need to make sure that you're sharing your examples, sharing your experiences. So I'm saying whatever the challenge is, whether you made a mistake or you were yelled at by a doctor or whatever, you know, share your stories. Be original, be authentic, share your story. They want to hear it. And I think the more examples you can add of the challenges, the better it is. Because again, as I said, they want to have, they want to, understand what your experience has been. So I think whether it's challenges or best care or whatever, share your story is going to be very critical.
Thank you so much for that, sir. I think it is through the stories during the interview that they can demonstrate their skills and their competencies. I believe today nobody is ready to just listen to fancy words coming out of your mouth, which are maybe coming out of your mouth or coming out of Google's mouth. And they're just getting to hear those words which they are very much used to. They need to hear the real stories behind them. Definitely, I buy in that. I hope my nurses do hear that very well. Uh, so that brings me to another segment of the interview. where today technology is the in thing, and even the hospitals today, before hiring, are very much interested in knowing how well versed is a nurse with the technological advancements in the medical field. So, how should they be really demonstrating their proficiency in this area and that they are well in touch with the latest technological advancements?
Yeah, good question. I think this answer will depend country by country, but let me try to give a generic example. Now, uh, I mean, technology could be as simple as using a tablet or a smartphone instead of a hard copy form, for example, right? I think, and let's say if you're coming from emerging markets like Nepal, India, or other countries, and you haven't been exposed to that high technology, excuse me, mention that, and that's okay. Um, Now, technology and innovation can be as simple as a new gadget, a new tool, or could be as simple as innovation in a process. So I think um, give them again. Go back to the story. Give them examples of so take an example of appendix surgery that used to be done earlier, very painful. Now we have laseroscopic, right? Endoscopy is much fast, much advanced now. Uh, um, Even the heart surgeries are much more advanced now than what it used to be earlier. And many surgeons would walk in only to uh, mend the stitches than anything else. So um, I I would say if you are from a country where advanced gadgets are used, give them examples, right? I'm using uh, tablets for digitizing data from. I'm using um, uh, you know, I've understood about laparoscopic surgery, and I've understood how this is done. So give examples of your country. If you have not, don't make one. That's very simple. Don't try to make one uh, if you haven't, and make sure um, that you admit and say the truth, or uh, narrate a true story, not something. Oh, I'm using advanced virtual model to do OSCE, and I mean, all that doesn't exist in Nepal or India or in that matter, right? So don't make it up. If you don't know, just say, you know, and the smart way to avoid, if you don't, if your hospital in Nepal or India, wherever, has been very traditional, you say, here is our process of what we do. And it's okay to explain them the process, to give them an idea indirectly that we are a little behind in technology, which is fine, right? It's not a crime. Um, I'll give a very simple example. Um, Not medical field, but 1998, I went to Hong Kong, and I moved from India, and to withdraw money from a bank, it was a long process, right? You go to a bank, you get a token, you withdraw money those days, right? And it takes time. When I landed in Hong Kong, and I had to take a ferry to go to my place from office to my home, and there was a so once I got late and I didn't have cash, then I found an ATM those days. ATM was a new thing at those days, right? And 2 o'clock in the morning, I could withdraw a few dollars to pay for my ferry ticket. I said, "Wow, this never happened in India in '98." Okay, so it could be as simple technology as this, that you're using a new laparoscopic equipment there. It could be new whatever, right? Uh, so I think you should give examples of what you know and what you don't know. Just say you don't know, and it could be as simple as using gadgets. It could be as simple as using tablets. It could be as simple as measuring heartbeat through a smartphone. I don't know. It could be anything. It could be through an app. I'm sure you guys can think more examples, because I'm not in the practical nursing field. You guys are. Uh, so whatever little just explain to them. If you don't know, And say you don't know. That's fine. Don't try to make it up, as I'm saying. Don't say I use Chat GPT to treat patients. That will be disastrous.
Most definitely, sir. So giving the right answer and that too, the technically the right answer is more important in these interviews. Don't just pick up any technology and name it and say that you're using it and you're well versed with it. Be very careful of your choice of words and statements that you wish to make. Uh, Sir, a question which I'll be asking now from a very generic question, interview point of view, not just nursing and from any domain, if anyone is sitting for an interview. There are questions which are, there are a lot of things that we tell about our previous work experience. And through our work experience, when we are talking to about it to our new employer we are interviewing with, how can we showcase our adaptability and flexibility? I think these are very important for any organization to hire us. So, what would you say on that?
Yeah, good question. And I think adaptability and flexibility, especially when you move to a new country, is going to be very, very important. Um, so adapting to new cultures, for example, um, I think you should give examples of new situation you have been put in. So, for example, uh, if you've been asked to move from a ward to an ICU, right, or ICU to or vice versa, showcase how you. So somebody could say, so let me take a different example. Somebody could say, uh, somebody's being asked to move from a ward or an ICU to OPD, for example. Somebody could say, it's a low-level job, OPD, right? I just have to count number of people, forms, and it's much lower grade than ICU. But look at this way: you're learning something new there also, right? Um, so I think they want to know uh, how you can, adapt so quickly, and how can learn new things. So give any example of when you were moved from one position to another position and you had to adapt or learn how to get used to it or learn something new as an idea. Um, they and this is very important because once you land in UK or any other country, the process of serving patients is going to be very different than the process in your own country. And there's a training called OSCE. So are you able to adapt quickly to do that? The culture is very different in UK, for example. Uh, and it's a country of all thank yous and sorries. And also, um, so for example, if somebody's going to give you way to go to the lift or to a tube or a metro or whatever train, and you don't say thank you, it's considered rude. If you're late by a minute and if you don't say sorry, it's considered rude, right? But are you willing to adapt to the culture they would like to see? So give them examples of what you have, uh, how you are dealt in a change situation, right? Uh, and how quickly were you able to adapt or make yourself flexible in changing with the change situation. It's very, very important. Um, Other on a non-medical example, I can give you. We were very used to cars and buses and everything in our home countries, right? Um, but if you go to UK, for example, you have to walk a lot. Go to Hong Kong and walk a lot, right? It's not so. People love to walk because weather is also very good. Okay, but if you're not used to walking and if you are uh, not comfortable walking for whatever reason, then I think you'll not be able to work out there. So adapting something, go for a long, make sure you get used to it. The other thing is the difference in culture, right? Uh, uh, if you are in I don't know, in your own country, if you take an example of Delhi, right, and if somebody's traveling by a metro, right? It's a struggle. It's a competition. You try to get in first, but in places like UK or other Western world, they let the other patients alight first before you get in. And by the way, it's done very, very smartly. So patients will stand like, sorry, not the patient, the passenger will stand like this and let the people who want to alight, will let them, they'll go through like this. And once they're done, they go into the metro like this. So I think it's uh, give examples of how you have been able to uh, learn fast with the change situation and is able to adopt things, that demonstrates your adaptation capability. And the second one is, of course, being flexible. I think you know one example could be that you can give example of COVID, for example, right? I know many of you went through during COVID time, and I've heard this story from a lot of nurses that when COVID hit the hospital, not many people were prepared, and you guys are probably in the front, right, facing all that those challenges because the situation was changing every day. So, what flexibility you showed during COVID time, whether by extending your time or working longer hours or whatever, or how you demonstrate flexibility by going beyond the call of duty. Uh, and one nurse gave me a very good example. I must probably share it here. Um, I think one of the patients uh, had financial issues with to pay for the treatment, and what I think she did, she went to the hospital management and helped him raise money. Uh, this is not a nurse job. So I think, going back to my earlier point, share your stories of how you have, worked through the change situation or adapted yourself, and how you are a fast learner, and how you demonstrate flexibility by, you know, um, by going beyond the call of your duty. Share stories, share examples, and I think most of it is then will be brief.
Definitely, definitely. I think through the storytelling way and sharing our experiences, we can tell them how in real life we are capable of doing a lot of this and a lot more, not just flexibility, adaptability, but other skill set we do possess. Uh, Moving on to a very different section of questions, which are also thrown at nurses, and often they're pretty apprehensive about them, is when they ask you questions in specific to behavioral or situational questions during an interview. Obviously, they're trying to test out something, right? How do you think then they better manage such kind of behavioral or situational based questions? What should be their strategy? And step one, two, three, why?
Yeah. I think I'm probably not going to say anything new here, but you know, uh, I think both behavioral and situational. So in situational, they're going to give you a situation, and they need to answer the question. So, for example, they could ask you. Um, I mean, this is to test whether the testing whether practically you know everything or no. For example, they could ask you if you receive a patient from the ward and I see you're in medical surgical ward, what if you find the gauge missing? One of the gauges missing, right? Um, what do you do when you see a patient, another nurse uh, giving a wrong injection, or you know doing the incorrect IUV, for example. So I think in situational question, you should try to answer what is right. What should be the right answer for that? So, for example, if you find a gauge missing, what are the right answer for that? Right? You should be able to explain that to the interviewer, and then they know. Okay, I know that. If somebody has a fever and you say I'm going to give him aspirin, I mean, obviously the wrong answer. That much at least I also know, right? So I think they're looking for factually correct answer in situations, and they will give you, or it could also be, if you see a patient falling down on the floor, or how do you prevent a patient falling down on the floor? Simple things like risk management, right handrails, make sure you have the right covers around the bed, etc. Um, so that's what they're trying to know. In the behavioral side, I think I would again go back to share your stories, share examples. Um, so it could be, how do you cope with stress? How do you, especially for the OT nurses, they could say, oh, you need to stand up long hours during operations. How do you manage that, right? So simple example of how do you cope with stress. You can give simple example. I do yoga. I go for a run in the morning. Uh, I listen to music, and even simple things like uh, some people. So if you know the famous cricketer Virendra Sehwag, Indian cricketer, right? You know what he used to do? He was humming different. He used to sing songs, uh, and that's his way of releasing stress. And and when they, sorry to get into so much cricket, but if you look at him uh, playing against the Pakistanis, and Pakistani guys are tall, right? They will come, running at you. It's like they're coming at you, and he's singing a song, Jingalala Hum, and he hit a six, right? So that's the way. Sometime in a stressful situation, you're explaining that, how do you manage stress as an idea. So that's a behavior, but give examples. So for example, you could say, hey, when I have a tough operation, I go out and have a chat, listen to music, talk to my friends, talk to my family. I mean, give examples, share your stories, and I think half the job is done. And I think in all of this, whatever the question is, being yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. Amrita can't be Pratiksha, and Pratiksha can't be Amrita, right? You're all different individuals. They are looking for that uniqueness in you, right? Yeah. Sorry for a long-winded answer, but I think best way to deal with this is stories and share examples, and for uh, you know as much situation example you can give, the better it is. And for demonstrating your flexibility and this thing, as I said, adaptability, show them showcase them how fast a learner you are. Show them, give them examples of situation you have bent rules, or uh, you've been very, very flexible. So I think if you do that, you're just about fine.
Sure, sir. Sure. Definitely catch that point. Now, specifically, a question that I may ask on behalf of those nurses who are facing language barriers when they're thinking of picking up international jobs, right? This is a fear that is unsaidly, it's not really said out loud, but it is there in their mind, though they can communicate in a bit of English. But how can they effectively address this potential language barrier during the interview process? I mean, if it gets to them.
Yeah, so interesting question. I think if you have passed IELTS or OET, I think you're good enough. Let's put it that way. So don't worry about it. Everybody has an accent, and uh, so I would say even British have their accent, right? I don't understand. The way I speak, maybe have a very much North Indian accent, right? Somebody from South will have a South Indian accent. Again, I think there nobody's going to care about that as long as your IELTS, uh, you cleared IELTS and OET ethically. I think if you cleared that, you are fine. Um, and I strongly believe being yourself always helps. So even if your accent is different, it's unique, it's you, right? So don't worry about it. Uh, even if you struggle with English, uh, I would say form short sentences. Don't go, you know, once upon a time I went to a hospital. You'll make mistakes. Okay, don't go there. Short sentences. My name is Chandar. I'm from Delhi, whatever. I've got experience of so much. Uh, you know, I've studied in Chitwan Medical College. Small sentences with full stops and pauses. I think this is the best way to explain your position. Okay, um, uh, and if you still struggle, uh, my humble advice would be, or if you can't understand, the other challenge people face is they can't understand the accent. So if I were you, uh, pick some IELTS audio tapes or podcasts, listen to them. Go to YouTube, listen to BBC Radio, etc. So you can get a hang of the accent, right? Uh, and I'm not the expert, of course, in English, but I think if you get a hang of the accent uh, and you know what's going on, you will get 90% of it. And be yourself. You know, if you call victory a victory, then so be it. But it's victory, right? Everybody will know. Be yourself. Doesn't matter whether you are impeccable Queen language speaker or no. That's fine. Uh, I think being yourself, as long as you're factually correct and you can understand the question and respond well, I think you are fine. I would not go through. And again, if you're clear IELTS, if you're good enough to clear IELTS, they all know that you'll be good enough to work.
All right, sir. I think that's very much reassuring. As sir has already mentioned, clearing your IELTS and OET is one of the basic requirements. And if you've been able to do that, I think there are no communication barriers as such that you'll be facing. You can always prep yourself a little better. Uh, Now, coming back to getting into the healthcare system in UK in specific, because there is where the largest demand is. If I may ask you, sir, any key aspects of the UK healthcare systems that these nurses should be familiar with before they go through the entire process? What would you say?
No, I think, see, the most of you will be working with private hospitals, some maybe to NHS. Um, as far as I know, Nepal has an embargo on NHS, so you can't go there, but some nurses still try. I always tell the nurses, private hospitals are always better for you. Um, and uh, I think get yourself familiar with the culture, very, very important. Number one, uh, get used to the local practices. So there's OSCE training you'll be doing once you land there. That is very, very important. And then coming again in the culture, it's a country of thank yous and sorries. Make sure you get used to it, okay? And you know, make yourself familiar. So once you, I mean, some training we will do for you once you are about to board the plane, or meaning few days before you fly off. But if I were you, I listen to a lot more uh, BBC stuff. I listen to podcasts online. We have number of podcasts as part of IELTS practice. You know, you can take help from us and be prepared. So and of course, please understand the UK culture is very, very different, and the UK practices of treating patients is going to be very, very different. So be OSCE is the training to do that. And last but not the least, you are going to be serving affluent, rich people. Okay, and sometimes rich people can have a lot of tantrums. Okay, so be prepared. So ignoring the tantrums, um, these affluent people expect much better service than NHS. Okay, so make sure you are you are someone uh, who is focusing on providing high quality care. And if you're not, private hospital is not the place for you. So I think there's some consideration. So, very, very high quality care focus. Get used to the culture. Make sure you practice. You are eligible to practice in UK. So pass through your OSCE exam and to get used to the culture, listen to a lot of podcasts, right? And let me tell you, by the way, once you're there, you'll also pick up the accent very soon. We met some nurses we had placed a year ago, and we went for a dinner with them. They're almost speaking like a Britisher, right? Even I was feeling a little uncomfortable. Uh, but you know what? I'm very proud of them, right? They went there. They have been able to speak in the language. You'll get used to it after 6 months, okay? But before that, you just need to be sensitive about it and be prepared.
Sure, sir, sure. I believe we have almost covered every aspect, but I'll just pitch in one last question to you, which is always there in every nurse's mind that when I'm asked about my salary expectations during an interview, what are some of the effective strategies and approaches that I should be adopting? How should I handle this question well?
So to be honest with you, uh, if you are looking at uh, from a basic job from any subcontinent uh, to Western world, the salary differences are going to be so huge. There's no question of telling them expectation because you will anyway get 20, 30, 40 times of what you make anyway, or maybe 10 times at the minimum per month. And of course, that life is very different. I mean, imagine, uh, you know, spending time in a polluted city versus, taking a walk uh, on a river in London, right, with no pollution, right? It's a very different experience. It increases your life expectancy as well because you're living in a very different world. So I would say, yeah. So salary expectation, I think safe response is I'll go by the hospital norms or go by the company norms. I think that's more than enough. I but again, you know, use your own judgment. I'm a bit old school, so that's what I would probably suggest, and it works. It has worked for me for last 20 years or 30 years now. I'm sure it will work for you as well. But use your own judgment. If you still prefer to give your number, then give it. But my strong advice would be, don't go there because every and secondly, who never know? Their budget might be higher than what your expectation is, right? So you might say, just give me 50% increase, but they're willing to give you 200%, right? Then you lose out. So being humble always helps. And first rule of negotiation: don't open your cards first. Let the other person open the cards first. Then you know what they're asking about, right? Um, and it mostly works, right? So I think just letting and this goes to any job, not just nursing. I think non-medical, non-healthcare jobs as well. Let the other person open the cards. Usually, I've seen, and by the way, if you don't fit into the budget, you're in wrong company anyway. So yeah, I would let them open the cards, tell you what it should be, and then take it from there.
Definitely, definitely, sir. Well, thank you so much, sir, for answering so many of my questions and really giving us a lot of confidence. I believe most of the nurses who have joined us today and others from various other fields who have joined us today for this webinar have got a good understanding. But I'd like to, as promised, give this chance to others to ask questions. You wouldn't get such kind of an experience wherein somebody who's really neck deep into the process of sending people up overseas for lucrative jobs and positions is there directly talking to you. So now is the time that you can ask your questions, any specific questions in your mind. You want to know what goes on in an interviewer's mind, you can ask him now. So I'll give this opportunity to everyone. You may unmute and ask your questions. Raise your hand, please, and I'll be willing to give you a chance. Or those who are shy or due to some issues can't really ask questions on microphone can type their questions in the chat, please. Go ahead. Any questions from any of you that we can handle right now? Any questions from you, Amrita, or have we answered all? Amrita, you stay on mute.
I don't have exactly any questions right now. I think I have cleared like all the questions which I was in my mind already by sir. Thank you so much, sir, for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amrita. Yes, any questions from anyone? This is your opportunity. Deena, Pratiksha, Bhavna, anything from you guys? Anything from you, Jyoti? Pratiksha, I remember during the practice with me, you had quite a few questions. So in case you wish to ask her something, this is your opportunity. Jyoti, anything from you, Karuna? If you do have any questions, you may ask. All right. Looks like you've done a fair bit of a job. However, and Jagdish mentions in the chat as well that everything is clear. So it's an all clear situation, sir. We are happy to see that we've been able to cover the maximum aspects. Rogina, you're typing something. Do you have a question? You can unmute and ask as well.
Uh, Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
I just wanted to say that it was quite helpful, and I really enjoyed your each and every suggestions which you have provided us. And thank you so much for that. I was only going to say that, not anything.
Sure. Thank you for the feedback, Rajina.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Regina. Yes. Shanti, do you have something to share with us? You all can unmute and this is the time you can talk to us directly. It's okay. You don't need to bother typing also. If you can unmute, you can just unmute and share your feedback or ask your questions. If you're interested in knowing about the process, we'll be happy to take up those kind of questions as well. We'll let you know how to get in touch with us, how to take this process further with Nursify. All right. Looks like so we've been able to cover maximum aspects. So I'm happy to see that there are no queries that I have left. Although Yamuna probably has something to say. Yamuna, you've raised your hand. Do you have a question for us?
Hello, good evening, everyone,
Very good evening.
and thank you for this fruitful class. Actually, I have got so many answers from this class, and I have one question. Is like they will ask me the question. Actually, I'm expecting that they will ask why you want to move to the UK, and there are so many reasons I want to move UK. The first is my career development, and along with that, I have one personal reason too. Like my in-laws family are already living in the UK from several years, and one my honest reason is that one of the reason is because of my family. So, can I tell it to the interviewers, or what it will be if I give the answer
Sure.
like that way?
No, so I think it's perfectly fine to say that. There's no crime in uh, having family in UK is not a crime, right? So I think you can say that uh, uh, that you have a family there, so and you like to be close to them. That's fantastic. Good answer. And they'll be happy because then at least, when you go to UK, you have someone to talk to, right? And you probably won't have withdrawal symptoms and won't miss family. So I think you should let them know, no problem. But to answer the broader question, why do you want to come to UK? I think you should be honest about it. I mean, most of the cases you could say I worked in a developing markets like Nepal or India, and I would like to see how the Western world or the developed world, treats their patients. That could be one. Um, um, I am, I like London's weather. Could be another one. I like to explore different cultures. Could be another one. I mean, quite frankly, I think if you show that, if you demonstrate that you are willing to learn and willing to learn in a diverse environment like UK, and you're willing to move from, because it's a very, very big move from Nepal or India to UK, because a big change of life, big change of culture, big change of patience, right? So if you are demonstrate that you are, willing to make the change, take the leap, and be there, uh, that's good enough. So short answer is you should be honest in giving that answer, and you know don't go for theory. UK is a technologically advanced country. I mean, so what, right? Don't go there, because then you're trapping yourself. You're getting yourself trapped into a question. So tell me what technological changes are there, right? They'll ask you that question, and do you know? You don't know, right? So be careful in not getting to a trap, but state the right reasons and state the honest reason. If your family is there, it's perfectly fine, right? Hope this helps answer your questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Yamuna. Thank you. And I believe Yamuna Giri, you also had a question. Would you like to go next?
Sorry, ma'am, can you repeat what you asked?
Yes, Yamuna Buddha, sorry, I was just asking another one. We have Yamuna Giri also in the audience. I believe she had a question as well. I'm just asking her if she has.
I have no any other questions, ma'am.
All right.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. Anyone else? Jyoti, I believe you were typing something. Would you like to ask us anything? You could do so. Jyoti, anything from you maybe? Yes, Dina, go ahead. You could take the chance. Definitely, Dina.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I just like to know that if what type of detail did we need to know during the about the organization where in with interview that we in interview we need to know something about the organization that we are taking. What kind of detail that we need to know?
Let me make sure I understand the question. You're saying how much of practical medical knowledge you need to have, right?
No, sorry. I believe her question is
Sorry,
more around the organization. Dina, is the question
about
more about yeah, go ahead.
if, that we are giving interview and on the some organization and what type of detail we need to know, just like about hospital beds, anything.
Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry I misunderstood the question. No, I think so. So they will ask you the question, what do you know about our hospital, right? I think you should, so by asking this question, they're trying to understand how prepared you are, okay, and how interested you are. By preparedness, you show your keenness to join, and you show, if you prepare, you demonstrate that you are keen to join the hospital, right? So uh, you should know where the hospital is located, how many beds, what services. So if let's say if you're going for Clementine Church and Hospital, you can say it's in Harrow. I love the place. Um, you know, uh, I'm looking forward to the Nepalese food there or Indian food there as an idea. But also I like I mean, don't get into weather sector, don't need. But what services they provide, what kind of consultants they have on board, and if there's any specific news about them, right? So if you're talking about Circle Health Group, you can say, it has 51 hospitals, one of the best. Uh, 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 Congratulations on being in the top 25 employer list, etc., etc. I think the more you, so on a basic level, I don't say it's located in this 200 miles, 209 nautical miles from London. I don't need to go to that detail, right? Relevant information that needs to be, that demonstrates that you are prepared. Okay, don't read through or don't cram uh, everything that's on the website. Okay, uh, also, uh, so where the hospital is located, what services they provide, what kind of consultants they have, what kind of patients they deal with, what kind of surgeries they provide, how many theaters. yada yada yada. I mean, they will be very helpful. But also, this is factual information. But what will demonstrate interest is you search on Google and find out, have they been in news recently? Have they what other things they do? What is the history of the hospital, right? Um, Etc. I think that will show them that you are very very interested uh, in the hospital and you are prepared.
Okay.
Hope that
Thank
answers
you,
your
sir.
question. Yeah,
Mm. Thank you so much, sir.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you. Anyone else? Any last questions from any of you? We'll be happy to take. Yes, Krishna, please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Good evening.
evening.
So, if the interviewer asks us about where in which ward do you want to work at, so what will be our answer? Like if before I was working as a maternity nurse, but as we know, we cannot apply as a maternity nurse in UK. So how will how will I have to answer that question?
Sure, sure. No, no, good point. Very good point. I think, thank you for asking that question. Um, you know, the interviewer actually is looking for your openness and flexibility to work in any department. Okay, by asking this question, they don't care where you want to work. Sorry, um, uh, to say it bluntly. Um, so I think if you are in maternity ward, and by the way, private hospitals will also open up for vacancies for that ward soon as well. So because they were asked by NHS to be available 24/7. So you will have a lot more opportunities. But to answer this question now, I think when they ask you whether you're a maternity nurse or ICU nurse or medical surgical or whatever, uh, you could say very clearly that I'm in the beginning of my career journey. I have only 4 or 5 years of experience, whatever the experience is, and
Okay.
I am looking to learn. So I am very open to work in any department wherever you think my experience will be best fit. I think say that. Um, to answer your question specifically, most nurses who are in maternity ward uh, would be a good fit in the medical wards or OPD or a medical surgical ward as well. But state your preference, or rather, if you really have a strong preference, like you want to work in a cardiology or oncology or any of the specialization that you have, or dialysis or something, then please, then it's a different issue. But if you're a generic nurse, generic registered nurse, then if I were you, I'll say I'm open to work in any department.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Krishna. Thank you. And so Jyoti has posted something in the chat box for us. So Jyoti says, please motivate us to speak in English. Well, Jyoti, that is something that has to come from within. As Sir said very clearly, the language is not a barrier. He said, clear your eyes and OET, and if that much benchmark you can meet, you're good enough anyways. And he's already suggested to you going through podcasts and probably BBC radio channels and all that should help you. And eAgeTutor can also help, by the way. So if you're planning to develop your language skills, you're more than free. I'd like to pitch that to them so that they're more than free to enroll with us, and there are a lot of trainers who'd be happy to work on their communication skills. But sir, if you would like to add to it, please go ahead.
No, I think a good point, Sakshi, you raised. I think, look, a couple of things you can do, right? Uh, First of all, if you know English well, it will be easy for you to settle in UK, because that's the only language they speak. So, uh, you know, if I were you, speak to my friends in English, Watch a lot more English movies, simple movies like like a very good Indian movie, Life of Pi. Simple English, no drama, no accent, very simple English. So the old ones are Monsoon Wedding, I think, if I remember right. I don't know. Maybe you can search on Google. Uh, uh, Monsoon Wedding is probably more Hindi than English, but look at that. Life of Pi is certainly a good movie that I can remember. So and then gradually increase the level, right? Uh, uh, Listen to podcasts, British podcasts will be very important. And then, as Sakshi rightly said, we work with our partners, eAgeTutor. Uh, Log on to the website. There are a lot of free material available, by the way, there. So use that. But if you really like to practice with few more people, I think a uh, uh, small group of nurses can join the program and just practice speaking with eAgeTutor. That could be something very important as well for you to consider, um, because learning a language uh, learning a language is a skill, right? Uh, we can't give you uh, you know we can't give you a pill which will make you speak in the language. So I think you need to practice, because with practice you can start to think in the language. I mean, like you learn Nepali or Hindi, right? Nobody told you in Hindi that I should say मैं खाना खाती हूँ or खाना खाता हूँ, or Sakshi should say मैं खाना खाती हूँ, right? It all came naturally with the environment. So once you are in the environment, you start to think in the language. I think that's what we should do. More people join some courses. And by the way, register with free definitely. But I believe there are
Definitely agree with that, sir. And yes, we've already let the kitten out of the bag. AI feature that eAge is about to launch has been would be a huge cake for most of the people. And sir is in practice a lot to take that steps, and you would also get that eAge feature for any person that requires in terms of language development. So Roshni has a few questions that we can address. She mentioned that learn and also maintain a connection with busy work. So how can we maintain the connection while we are engaged with during this? What would you say on that?
yeah, I think some basic things. Some etiquette for the virtual interview. I think look into the camera. This is equal to looking into the eye of the interviewer. Okay, because some people, when I ask the question, looking here, looking there, looking at the notes, that is considered rude. Number one. Number two, if they ask you they ask you how are you doing, or how are you feeling today, most will say fine. But what next? I think ask them, how are you doing today? That way you are engaging and having a dialogue with the uh, interviewer. Don't cut them in between. Uh, don't interfere. Don't intervene. I think that should be very, very important. So uh, I guess a lot of the time the way you can demonstrate um, that you're connecting with them is as simple as looking into the camera. Like the whole time when I was talking, I was looking at the camera, like I'm talking to you guys, right? So do that, and uh, uh, you know, uh, it should be fine. Um, uh, then the other, uh, other thing that you can do is to make sure that uh, that you are able to, uh, uh, engage with the audience with a bit of a asking them, responding, reciprocating the greetings and the gestures. And last but not the least, when you share your experiences, you're actually connecting with the audience as well. So share your stories, share your experience, and I think these are kind of couple of things you can do to connect.
Awesome. I hope we've answered your question, Roshni. We have another one from Preeti Gaha. Preeti, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My question is I heard that at the end of an interview, it will be a plus point if we ask some question to the interviewer. So, what type of questions should we ask them?
Sure. So I think, again, very good point. And I think the typically the kind of questions you should ask um, uh, should not be. Uh, Let me tell you what you should not ask. Uh, and first of all, do ask the questions, right? Uh, don't ask the questions around salary, leaves, can I get transfer, can I bring my husband, all those kind of. So salary related questions, I think avoid. Leave related question, avoid. Uh, Usually the agency who's helping you will be able to help answer those questions. I think that should be fine. But ask them, asking questions, and don't say don't have any questions. That demonstrates that you are not interested in the job anymore, which is a killer. You're already killing your chances of getting selected. Um, so, and what you should ask, I think you can ask about, you know, how is it to live in London? It could be as simple as that. Could be, um, uh, you know, things like what are the career progression opportunities, what learning opportunities I have, what OSCE support you're going to get as an idea. Um, so I think those are very, very good questions, but do ask the question and stay away from asking, stay away from asking uh, questions that are money related, logistics related, or tiny. I mean, not tiny. Sorry, trivial topics. I wouldn't go there. But do ask about future opportunities, uh, promotional opportunities, growth opportunities, what learning and development you're going to get. And by the way, the other thing you can ask is what are the skill sets you're expecting in a nurse? When what are the skill sets you're expecting in a nurse? And they ask, why do you ask that? So you can say that I can prepare. So I'm going to come to UK very soon. So if there's something I'm lacking, it's good to know the expectations so I can prepare and bridge those skills gaps as well. But very good question. I don't know who asked, but hope I answered the question.
Thank you, sir, for the answer.
Thank you, Preeti. Thank you so much. So Sumina has a question in the chat for us. She says that what to do if we answer them wrong or another question answer instead of what they had asked us due to language barrier or misunderstanding the question. Does that decrease our points?
No, I think I look. They do understand that you're coming from a different world. Uh, so if you don't understand a question, or don't understand the term, or don't understand the accent, I think it's okay to say, "I'm pardon me, please. Could you please repeat? I didn't understand." Or they use a term. They use a term that you don't understand. Then I think you should be very, very careful in. Um, you should be very, very careful in um, uh, asking it too many times. But if you don't understand, I think it's okay to ask that. I don't. My apologies, I don't understand, and clarify.
Hello.
And if they give you uh, let's say, if they use a term which is not heard of in your country, uh, uh, you know, uh, it could be like TLAs, three-letter acronyms, as an idea. I think just ask, sorry, sir, or ma'am, I don't understand. Could you please elaborate? That's fine, perfectly fine. Um, yeah, hope that helps.
Definitely, sir. I think that's pretty much clear. Sumina, I hope we've answered your question. Uh, Yamuna has a very different one again. She is asking if I can write the questions on a paper while the interviewer is asking me. I see why not, Yamuna. Just taking that up on behalf of sir. You may write down, but why would you want to do that? During the interview, your eyes and your focus has to be on the interviewer. Your focus cannot be drifting away to a piece of paper where you're trying to jot down the kind of questions that they're asking. If I have misunderstood your question by any chance, Yamuna, you may go ahead and unmute and ask again. I'll be happy to answer, so we'll be happy to take that up. And Krishna says, can we ask about their work environment? So would you like to take that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I couldn't hear very well.
Yes, Krishna asked that, can we ask about their work environment?
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. I think so. The way to ask that question would be, um, since I'm new to UK, since I'm new to Circle or whichever hospital you're going to, since I'm new to your hospital, could you shed some light on what I can expect in terms of work environment? I think asking it politely would be very nice. Um, asking politely would be very, very nice. And, as long as you don't push it through. So I think it'll be great. See, most time when you're giving suggestions or asking little tougher questions, uh, it's always good to put it in a nicer way, and polite way, and I think that's perfectly fine. Yeah. But I would avoid asking salary questions, asking accommodation questions, asking trivial questions like how many leaves am I going to get? Of course, you know all this beforehand, right? What's my salary going to be? Or, uh, and don't ask questions that will give them an idea that you could be a hindrance. So, for example, I have a small kid. Uh, do you think you'll provide facility for that? Now, of course, you need facility, right? But be careful. That might say, that's a red flag. Right? See, it's not a crime to have kids. Of course, you're supposed to have kids. But if you start going in the direction that tells the interviewer that this may be a tough hire for me, avoid that, please, in the first round. Um, uh, you know, but you can discuss with us any of those things. With us or through any other agency you're going, you can always discuss that. And I think it's good to clarify those things well in advance. So, yeah, I mean, these are very, very good questions by the way you're asking, and I think thank you for raising those. Um, uh, I think these are the more you prepared. I think somebody asked the question, can I make notes? Clear, no. I don't think you should be making notes in the interview, honestly. Unless they're trying to tell you something new and you want to ask them, can I please make notes? That's fine. But I would not make notes of the question they're asking, and I would focus on looking into the eye of the interviewer, which means looking into the camera all the time. And by the same logic, don't read from notes as well, right? That's disastrous. That's suicidal. Let me tell you. If you read from notes, it just tells you that you don't care enough to prepare yourself. Uh, yeah, I mean these are some of my personal views. I mean, could be right or wrong, up to you to decide. But I feel after taking, I can tell you what will bother me if I would be very surprised if somebody is referring to notes. And sometime, and by the way, make sure the other thing is make sure when you are appearing for an interview, there's nobody else in the room as well, and your background is clean, right? It's either a graphics or a clear wall. Some paintings is fine, but having the painting of dinosaur probably is not a good idea.
Sure, sir. I think point well taken. I hope we've answered everyone's questions. I don't see many more coming in. Yes, Yamuna does thank us. Thank you so much, Yamuna, for asking us the right questions. And I think it was for the benefit of all. So we do thank you all for being with us today, joining us today. And thank you so much, Chandra sir, for being around. I think as a part of Notify's team, giving us so much knowledge and getting to know how tough and how easy it is for us to go abroad. And with all the tips that you have given, I think all of us who are there joining us today in this webinar should be able to make it through. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Thank you so much for joining. And if any of you or your friends are interested, you can always go back to nursify.co.uk and register there. Our team will be very happy to help you. We are here to serve you and make sure you get your dream job. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. The required details are there in the chat box, just in case if you're wondering where's the website, what is the email ID. I've been posting that. Please go through your chat box and you'll find the right email ID to reach out to and the website as well. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye.